Sicha Vayigash Aleph Chelik Yud is one of the most famous sichas of Lakuda. Sichas Nekuda is very, very famous. However, not necessarily the whole build-up to it. So let's explore it together. It's a sicha about crying. Binyamin comes down, and Yosef plays the whole thing that he did in the Parshas Miketz with the goblet. And eventually, Yosef says, Ani Yosef, I'm Yosef. Vayipo al tzavre Binyamin achiv, he falls on the neck of Binyamin, his brother. Vayevk, and he cries. Binyamin bacha al tzavarav, and Binyamin cries on his neck. Says the Gemara, Yosef cried on the two Batei Mikdashes. That's why it says tzavre, lashon rabbin. That would be in the section of Binyamin in Eretz Yisrael. And Binyamin cried on Mishkan Shiloi, which would be in the Chelik of Yosef, and would eventually be destroyed. Now, what's the connection between Tzavre and the Beis HaMikdash? The Medrash explains on the pasuk in Shir HaShirim, Kemigdal David Tzavarecha, that your neck is like the Migdal David, just like a neck is at the height of the human being on the top, so too the Beis HaMikdash is the top. However, not that it's ultimate on the top, it's on the heights. Begavha in the heights. Now, just like the neck is not ultimate at the top, the Beis HaMikdash is not the top. That's why it says Ubein Seif of Shachin, that sits on top between the shoulders. That the Beis HaMikdash was lower than the Mayon Eitam, the Eitam river that flowed. It wasn't the highest part in Yerushalayim. Just like the neck of a person is on the top, but it's not the ultimate top. It's lower than the head. So too, the Beis HaMikdash wasn't on the top, and like we say about an ox, that the most beautiful part of the ox is safe of the shoulders, not the head. So it's within the heights, big of, but not great by the ultimate heights. Now the question is, why can't it be the ultimate height? Why can't it be that beauty? If there's nothing beautiful about the heights, then who cares that it's heights? Why do you have to say it's Begeva? And if there is the beautiful about the heights, why wasn't the highest thing? Why was it 23 amas lower than Mayan Eitam? Says the Rabbi, we can understand this that by understanding the theme of what a neck stands for. A neck is the intermediary between the head and the body. Because all the chayas, all the life force of the human being is in the mind, in the head. How does it come down? It comes through the vessels, through the windpipe and all the various pipes and the veins and the food pipe within the neck, right over here. And so too, seichel, how does it impact emotions into the heart? Through the neck. So this is the valve, it's the system through which the mind impacts the rest of the body. And that finally, only through there can the head accomplish its mission, that all the veins will have its chayas, and that all the veins will follow the guidance of the brain. So even though the mind, the head is greater than the neck, that's only when it comes to levels. But when it comes to the impact and the purpose of the head is not able to accomplish the purpose without the neck. So the neck is more in tune with the purpose of the head than the head is itself, because it's the mamutza, it's what accomplishes. So the Beis HaMikdash, what's the point? The point of the Beis HaMikdash is to bring Dir Lo Yisbarach, to make a home, to bring Shechina from Hashem into this world. And therefore, the Beis HaMikdash Nachas is a bit lower, closer to the world, so that it could be a vehicle and a conduit through which the Shechina can come into this world, be the Memutza Mechaber. And so too, the Beis HaMikdash that's in each and every one of us. When our Nefesh Elokis is not above us, floating above us, but rather is actively involved to refine the Nefesh HaBahamis, that's how you're able to turn your body and yourself into a Mikdash Lo Yisbarach. So this explains us, says the Rebbe Nois Beis, why Yosef falls on the neck of Binyamin and Binyamin falls on his neck. Why on the necks, not on their heads? Because what's the goal of a Yid? Ani lo nivresi ela shamash to serve my master, to make a Dir Lo Yisbarach b'tachtonim. And that is dependent on the avodah of the Yid. Hakobi de shamayim chutz mir shamayim, I have the b'chir chavshis, I have the free choice, and I have to have the Yiras Shamayim too. As Perik Malv says, that's the foundation to make a Dir Lo Yisbarach b'tachtonim. I have to refine myself. How do I do that? By bringing the neshama into this world, through the tzavra, through the neck. And that's why they're crying on each other's neck, not on the head, because there's nothing to cry about the head. The head of a Yid is perfect, the neshama is beautiful. And number two, the tachlis of the head is not in the head, it's the dear Leis Baktim, so my connection with you, I'm crying with you, is on the neck where your avodah happens. So the question is, why does Yosef cry about Binyamin and Binyamin cry about Yosef? Everyone should cry about their own. Even says the Rebbe, so much so that even the mitzvah of Avos Yisrael, and we know how great Avos Yisrael is, nevertheless, v'ahavta l'recha kamecha, b'kaf hadimyan, similar to you. It's not the same level of you love yourself. As Geras HaKodesh says, you have to give tzedakah, which is chesed, but nevertheless, chayecha kaidmin. Your life comes first, and each person has to first I have to take responsibility in my own Beis Hamikdash. Also, on the pasuk that says, "Vayipol al tzavar of Yaakov," and he cried on his neck a lot, says the Zohar, Yosef cried on the Beis Hamikdash that was destroyed. And that's how the Zohar explains the word oid, that was an extra tears because on the final galus he cries. Why is only Yosef crying about the Beis Hamikdash, not Yaakov? Comes Rashi and says, because Yaakov was reading Shema, but that's not an answer, according to that Zohar. According to the Pshat that had nothing to do with Beis Hamikdash, they just loved each other. We can understand. The avodah of Yaakov, he's not interrupting the Shema. But according to the Zohar, how is Yaakov not getting emotional and crying about Beis Hamikdash? How's he able to focus on the Shema right then? Says the Rebbe like this. Why does a person cry? This is the famous part of the Sicha. To make it easier on the cry. You release emotions. When somebody is crying and releasing emotion, it doesn't fix anything, but it makes it easier on the person to carry it. I literally can live off it. However, when there's something I could do about it, don't cry, do something about it. So therefore, when you see the Churban Mikdash of your friend, you cry. But who can do something about it? Your friend. You have to help your friend, give them the musar they need, awaken them, daven for them. But ultimately, for that person to fix their own private Beis Hamikdash, they have to do their own avodah. Whatever you've done, whatever you can, you cry. But when you see your own Beis Hamikdash, you don't cry. You can cry, but it's not enough. As the Hayom says, one action is better than 1,000 krechtzim. You have to go build your Beis Hamikdash. Unless it's tears of tshuva, which then it's part of the tikkun, but just tears to release is not doing anything. On the contrary, it could sometimes affect negatively. What do you mean? You see, I care, I even cry. So therefore, each one cries for the other person. And Yaakov does not cry at all because he's the father of all Am Yisrael. So all the Beis Hamikdashes are by him. So therefore, it's his problem. He can't cry. Beis Hamikdash, a place that's ready for karbanis, and Kol HaKareh Kriyashma can fix it. Ki'ilu Hikri. So what's he doing? He's actually doing something to fix the situation. He's saying Shema. Tikkun Beis Hamikdash. Now, the fact that you could ask, the fact that they saw in Ruach HaKodesh that the Mishkan and Mikdash will be destroyed, so it means it's a Gzeira already. What can they do about it? Answer is, even when you have a sharp knife on your neck, you don't give up. A person has to do whatever avodah they can do to fix it. Like we find by Chizkiah, that Chizkiah was about to die, and Chizkiah tells Yeshaya, you could still, Chizkiah tells Yeshaya, leave, complete your nevuah, I could still do something about it. He turns to the other side of the wall, and his davening does accomplish it. Shamati is tfilasecha. They got 15 years of his life in this world. In other words, a gzera can still be changed. And therefore, they cried. Amru Chazal called Dar Shalei Nibna B'Biyam Man Nalav Kilur Chribai. If the Beis Hamikdash is not built in our time, it's as if we destroyed. In other words, each and every one of us, the reason that the Beis Hamikdash is not built is because our private Beis Hamikdash is not built. And therefore, don't cry. Do something about it. Gula Pratis. And Gula Pratis brings Gula Klalis. This beautiful Sicha was said on the first Vayigash, Rashi Sicha, although this is not a Rashi Sicha so much, so it's a bit of a Rashi Sicha, said in Vayigash, Tafshin Chaf Hey, just a magnificent Sicha about don't cry,